Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Money Monster, starring George Clooney, Julia Roberts, Jack O'Connell, and Dominic West, directed by Jodie Foster. Now, I remember going to theaters for this movie. It was right after my trip to Hawaii for the first time. And what did I think of this movie? Well, let's talk about it. Lee Gates is a TV show host called Money Monster, filming the show about finance and how IBIS CEO Walt Canby, played by Dominic West, calls people's money disappearing a glitch, when I know that's bullshit from the get go, while Patty Fenn, played by Julia Roberts, is his director, who tells Lee Walt is on the plane while he almost gets in an interview with Diane Lester while recording live, which are fun, entertaining scenes while Patty is thinking of quitting, and I don't care for the backstory as this is not Jodie Foster's best work as a director. And I have to confess, I've never seen The Beaver, as I hear that's a terrible film. While this movie is fun at best, a man affected by the IBIS effect named Kyle Budwell, played by Jack O'Connell, whom I first saw in the Angelina Jolie directed debut of Unbroken, comes into the studio with a box where he has a bomb detonated on a vest, and he comes on the show with a gun, and they stop the cameras until Lee tells Patty to turn them on and stay on the air while security is called on, and at first thinks it's a joke when it's not. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, this is a mistake the security guard is making. And Patty tells people not handling the cameras or the boom microphone to get out of the scene as the cops arrive in front of the building in New York City. And Kyle tells the people of the Wall Street jackasses to steal the money for rigged reasons. And Jack O'Connell delivers a fine performance, as does George Clooney, Julia Roberts, as they turn in some good work. The cops led by Captain Powell, played by Giancarlo Esposito. And how many fucking movies have I seen this guy in? As he's a welcome presence, as he tells Patty to keep stalling until they come up with a plan, and that makes the situation sound terrible, as he's the worst character in my opinion. While Kyle doesn't like the fact they call the situation a fucking glitch, as Captain Powell tries to get his cops on the line as he doesn't want to talk to them, as he threatens to put a bullet in Lee's head while Diane gets out of the interview and gets to her office, and her office comes like douchebags. And the plot is questionable in my opinion. Lee learns Kyle's real name is actually Kyle, while Ron is being put on their air as people see on the TV worldwide, even on the news, while the cops are looking for another bad idea, like shooting Lee in the kidney, for example, to get Kyle, and Diane is forced to go on the TV, while an asshole of a boss of hers named Avery tells her to not go on the TV to talk to Kyle, and she does while she says it was a fucking glitch, and she doesn't know what else happened, as Walt believes Lee is an idiot, and Lee tries to get real answers until Kyle shoots the monitor, and Patty is pissed, and this movie is problematic. The asshole Avery tried to fire Diane, but she refuses it as she doesn't have to answer to him, as Lee suggests to help Kyle and tries to get IBIS stock so they could save his life and try to triple it, but they don't care for Lee's life, as that scene felt like a downer. And there are scenes that feels like a downer, as the cops bring in his girlfriend who's pregnant with a baby and find a guy from Seoul, and Diane gets a translator to talk with her as her key doesn't work, and people are helping her out while Lee talks about personal relationships, as he gives Kyle points, as Lee asks Kyle about how much more he's got more than he does, as Patty wants him to shut up about it, as Patty tells Kyle to stand by, and that's cringy dialogue, as it's bad. And Kyle's girlfriend, Molly, I guess is her name, is brought into the situation by the cops, and she insults him, like calling him a failure, and she calls him a bitch. And there's another scene that feels like a fucking downer while she tells him to kill himself, and Kyle thinks about committing suicide, like Molly said, as he feels down for the rest of the movie, while the cops prepare to shoot Lee in the kidney, while the guy from Seoul doesn't want to get involved in the situation, and he explains about his algorithm and explains there's human fingerprints and on it, and it's complicated and all that bullshit. As Walt comes in from a plane from a foreign country, as we'll learn later in a few minutes, as he's caused everyone's money missing, which makes convenient sense, but it's too convenient for the plot, and that's where we're going to get to this climax. Lee points out Kyle's gun to help him pick it up, as he confesses he doesn't want to kill him, as he wants to help him, and there's a way out of it, and that's finding more information about Walt, what Walt did to while the cops prepare to shoot Lee in the kidney, as someone in the set named Bree and tells Patty, finds out from her, and she tells Lee, and I'm not having a bad time with the movie at this point, as I'm entertained while some cops come in to get the boom mic man, people in the back, including Patty and cameraman, out of there, while Diane tells Patty they're going to the federal hall, and she texts him Walt was in South Africa. And Kyle learns everybody left the room, and the sniper almost gets Lee dead and takes Kyle to Walt, as he learned where he's going to be at, while Letty the cameraman films him with them, even in the elevator, as Lenny says he doesn't like elevators, and I don't care for that. But this isn't as bad as I thought it was. And finance is not my favorite subject in general. Lee confesses what will he do without Patty, and Lee and Kyle, along with Lenny, walk with the cops as Patty calls Diane about what more did Walt want or do, as he lied to everyone's face, while Ron figures out the truth, as he ran half a mile from getting information back to where they're walking at, while people mock Lee's theme show, which was actually funny to me, while Kyle and Lee tells Lee the vest was only clay, and continues with the situation as Lee is going with it, and Patty learns with Diane about the details, including Mambao, who is a leader of South Africa, as Ron gets Lee the headset and communicates with Patty, while Kyle accidentally shoots Ron, and they get in Federal Hall, while Patty is explaining Walt is the bad guy, and gets proof over it by showing it to the computer, while Diane exposes Walt while he has nowhere to run, and that's so much information that felt believable. Walt bumps into Lee and Kyle, and they interview him and exposes the truth to the world while guns are pointed at them, and Lee says something about Mambao, and Walt bullshits his way out of it, but the cops don't buy it, and tells Lee to put the vest on Walt, and he stole more money, as he says it's wrong, and tells Kyle what he did was wrong. And Kyle tried to pull the trigger, and the cops shoot Kyle dead, as Lee sucker punches Walt, and the world saw the whole thing, and Lenny puts the camera down as they take Kyle to the hospital, which is where Lee waits for him as he hears he's fine, and Patty comes in with some Chinese food, as they see on the TV so many reactions of Walt screaming for his death, with a cat fighting with him, versus a clip from Child's Play, the Chucky movie, and a throat being cut to Walt's reaction, which was actually hilarious. And the climax was hilarious while I was entertained at the end of the day, but how entertained was I? Let's talk about it. I'll give this movie a 5.3 out of 10. Not one of Jodie Foster's best directorial debut films, as George Clooney, Julia Roberts, and Jack O'Connell turned in some good work as well as fine performances. And I don't like the backstory of Julia Roberts' character because I don't care for it in a movie that was entertaining me throughout, as the movie was entertaining and the plot is questionable in my opinion. There are scenes that felt like a downer, and the dialogue is cringy to a point it's bad. And the twist made the movie too convenient while I wasn't having a bad time with it. Because like I said, I was entertained throughout I was turned on my brain and had a good time with it. The movie was believable, but not really the best. But there were times it made me laugh as I talked about them. And this is a weak recommendation, and it was alright. But the climax was hilarious as I had a good time with it. And give this a look at if you like these actors in general. And yeah, it was just alright with me. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this review. And until then, I'm going to do what Walt does as far as the memes go. No, don't.